Hi, Melanie Muenchinger here, illustrator for Gina K Designs. Today I have a project for you showing two very different sets of mine, Beyond Baskets 2 and Stately Flowers 7. When I'm planning my sets and doing my videos, I like to be able to show you uses for every image in my set so that you have lots of ideas on how to use them when you get them. One that I had not used yet in this particular set was this box, which can also go with this open cardboard flap or the top of this wrapped gift box. And then another image that I'm going to be using today is this red clover from my Stately Flowers 7 set. So I've got videos for all these other images. I've got one where I am coloring the lady's slipper with some Copics. I've also got a whitewash technique, which was one of my most popular YouTube videos using this Wild Prairie Rose. And then you'll also find a gift card holder for this bag, and then a treat holder for this Santa bag. So I want to show you today how you can use this box, not like a box, but for just boxing in an image. So today we're going to do a little bit of omission here. You want to use water-based markers for this. The other products that you're going to need for this, in addition to those two stamp sets, going to be using the Memento Tuxedo Black pad. This is really nice for coloring. The cardstock that I'm using, I have got some of the Gina K Pure Luxury Red Hot. This is 4 1/4 by 11, scored at 5 1/2. And then today, the cards that I'm showing, because I have a couple other examples, I'm just using scraps. So these are just pieces that were end pieces from other mats that I cut. And I really like going to these sometimes because it produces some really unique sketches. You just kind of play with layering everything onto your card. You get something really different from what you normally do, and you don't have to do any measuring. So I will measure these and post these under the video later. And then I've got just some scraps here of the Gina K Watercolor Garden pattern paper pack. So I realized after I made this card, this was my very last piece with this pattern. So I'm going to show you just with the different pieces that are left over, how we can lay them out to create a different looking card than this, but it'll still be really beautiful. Then I've just got some foam squares for popping that image up and some adhesive. For doing the box, I'm going to be using a Spectrum Noir Aqua marker. So this is just the black. I believe this is from the Nature set. And then some Spectrum Noir alcohol markers that I'm using. For the flower, I've got the PP3 and the DR3. For the leaves and stem, I've got the CG2 and the DG3. And then the GG2 for the shadow. And then we just need some large blocks for these images. So to begin, I'm going to take this white mat, and this is something that you can do sideways as well, but I like this portrait style for this particular image. So when we're looking at these images face up, this is the reverse of what they're going to be stamped. So to omit around this so that you don't have to do any masking, and that would be another option if you wanted to, but I really like just tracing this, you can lay this right onto the box, and then when you trace around this with a marker, you're going to have the perfect place just to pop that in to the box. So I'm just going to carefully go around it on all edges with the marker. And you can try this with a stamp pad as well, just the corner, but you get a lot more precision. Got a little hair right here, hang on. You want to make sure that you start with a clean stamp. There is some staining on this stamp, but that's okay. But since I'm not inking up the entire box, I don't want to have ink underneath this from the last time I stamped it. Okay? So then we're going to just peel this away. And then I'm just going to huff on this just to reactivate that ink, to moisten it. And then turn it over, and you can see through where the black is. So I'm going to put this a little bit towards the top so that I have room at the bottom there for my greeting. Pull it away, and then we've got the perfect space for this red clover. So I'm just going to ink this up with my Memento pad. If you don't have a black pad, you could just go right on this, go over it with that same marker, but this is a lot easier. And then I'm just going to lay it over, pardon my head, but then you just look to see where your opening is and pull it up. Okay? Then I'm going to use a greeting from that Beyond Baskets 2 set, the Celebrate, which can work for really any occasion. Just lay that down at the bottom there and pull away. Okay, now we're going to do some simple coloring on this. So I'm going to start with my shadow. So let's just go underneath, and that really fills in that space where it skips, where you had that little space of the reveal of the edge of that stamp. So I'm just going on the underside, and then just a little bit under here. Okay? And if you want to do some masking with some Post-it notes to sponge into this box, but I just like it clean and open like this for this particular design. Okay, now I'm going to start with my lightest green, and you'll notice that I have a lot more shading built into this illustration on these leaves than I normally do. One reason for that is I hope that you'll Google a red clover image so that you can see that they have really interesting leaves. Each one has a little V on the leaf, and that's where you can see this lighter part here, almost like a heart. So it's really interesting. So even if you only have one color green marker to do this with, you're still gonna see a lot of shading on here because of the illustration. But I'm gonna go ahead and add just a little bit of this darker green as well. So I'm gonna layer the darker green over where I have the lines in my illustration that always shows you where to put it, and then just a little bit under the flower there and on the underside, and then we can go back in and blend this with our lighter marker, or you can do some tip-to-tip coloring as well. So I'm going to just go over, and that's already starting to blend there. Or you can pick up a little bit of that darker green onto this marker, but I'm just going to leave it like that. Pull that down. Okay, now let's do a little bit. A red clover is actually a little bit more pink. I did this one pretty solid just to match the paper, but I decided to go ahead and do 2 shades so you can see. So I'm just going to fill this whole thing in with the pink, and I chose this pink and red from the colors in that Watercolor Garden paper. And I've also seen some red clover online, which looks more like the ones I see around here that are really more purple. But, you know, as I always say with flowers, color them however you want. Okay, use any colors that you want. All right, so then I'm going to do just the red. And so these actually have a darker tip than they do on the bottom. But again, you can color these however you want. So if you want to put a little bit, normally where that darker shading is where I would put the darker colors. So we can do a little bit of that too. But it's just touching it to the edge. And if you want to leave it more unblended, you can do that. Or we can go back over it just like we did. And that's just going to deepen it and make that red blend in. It's a really sweet little kind of puffball flower. Okay, now I am going to just layer this onto this black. So I really like doing offset mats like that. I think it's very striking. So just put a little bit of adhesive on here. And then just that, I mean, even if you don't have any patterned paper, that gives a really kind of beautiful Asian feel with that red, black, and white, and just such a simple layout. But I don't use patterned paper a lot on my cards, so I really wanted to show you what you can do with that. So here's a long piece. So this all started out as a 6x6. Let's see, how would it have all been pieced together? I'm not sure. 6x6 piece. So I think it was like this. So that's the nice thing about cutting this down for smaller mats, because then you have all these little pieces that you can do fun stuff with. So we could take this piece and we could put it here on the side and maybe have just a little reveal there, and then have that. I love that. We could do just this little piece right here. I'm loving that. You could put this down here at the bottom. I mean, there's so many ways to do it. So there's not really a lot of rules here. I could put this over on this side. So everything works. I love it all. Honestly, I love it all. Let's try this. I'm going to do this one. So I'm just going to have a little reveal there on the side because it looks like more layering when we have that extra bit. And then I'm going to do just some little pop dots here, these little foam squares. But I just love using this box, and as soon as I stick this on, I'm going to show you just a couple more examples for how you can use it. I think it's a very versatile image, and I just find it easier to do that than trying to trace a die or trying to freehand it, because I often get off a little bit on the end, and then you've got this little, you know, squiggle that drives you crazy. So anyway, that's just something that's a way that I like to use this box. Another thing that you can do with it, this is one that I made using the new handmade botanical set. It's the free incentive right now when you place an order of 75 or more, but it will be available for individual purchase for $10.95 in a few weeks. So keep that in mind if you like this set. But so what I did here, instead of putting the image over the edge of that box, I just stamped my greeting, and then I laid the box face up over it, and I knew just to ink right around where the length of that greeting was, and then flipped it over and stamped it. And then I just stamped the fern and then the different little flowery images in there. And this layout could actually go portrait or landscape style. If you're wondering about the button there, I got a big smudge on it, so had to make it work. Another way that you could use this box, here is one that I made with my Triple Play holiday set. Again, just using some scraps that I had over there on my table just to give it a little bit more interest in this layout, but I just stamped a little cupcake and then a couple of the hearts. So stamped this way, it's a smaller space, but it's a nice way to maybe do a little showcase of a trio of your different smaller images. I hope you enjoyed this idea for how you can use this box and how you can use the other images in Beyond Baskets too. Please check out the videos for both of these stamp sets. Please visit us at Gina K Designs and Stamp TV for more ideas and inspiration using all of our stamps. And please subscribe to my YouTube channel and my blog. Thank you for watching today. God bless.